Check, check, check.
Testing. 1, 2. Testes. 1, 2, 3.
Check, check.
That is so annoying.
Ruin my childhood.
Thank you for listening to Ruin My Childhood, the podcast where we decide if some things are better left in the past. I am Mike.
And I'm Kat.
How are you doing today, Kat? Filled with existential dread?
Everything hurts and I think I'm dying. But other than that, I'm great. How are you?
I'm a little sweaty. It's hot.
It's hot. What temperature is it?
It's about 90 degrees outside.
Still.
Yep.
At 5:30. Better than yesterday. It was like 90 degrees at 8:30.
Yeah, that was no bueno.
I'm killing the earth, guys.
Yep.
I've been saying that for like a decade now.
At least. You won't stop talking about it.
And yet nothing has changed.
It's gotten warmer.
Yeah, it has.
Anyway, back to reality. What are we going to be talking about today?
That was a nice steaming piece of reality, if you ask me. We're talking about angels in the outfield.
Yep, baseball season just started.
Did it really, though?
Yeah, it started about a week ago.
They had a few guinea pigs out there, and then people got the Rona.
No, people are still playing. They're putting like cardboard standees of people like in the
That's so sad.
Yeah.
Is it like so the players don't get depressed?
I guess.
Like how you bury some live survivors at disaster scenes so that the rescue dogs will still find living people?
That's exactly what it is.
That was a weird example. Had nothing to do with it.
Anywho,
I think that was just an example of my psyche at this point.
What do you remember about this film?
It was another baseball film. It had the crazy dude in it.
Which crazy dude?
The crazy dude.
Are you talking about Christopher Lloyd?
Christopher
Doc
Lloyd.
Brown?
Right, but like I'm talking about from my perspective as a child. I was like, oh, it's that crazy dude. That baseball movie with the crazy dude. My grandma was into this. And anytime I talk with my grandma, she's old. She's like 93, I want to say, 94.
Gosh, yeah, she's up there.
She's ancient.
She's like 3'2".
But she only likes Christian movies. And I swear, every time I talk to her, she's like, have you heard? Well,
War Room. She talked about War Room for like a year.
She's teeny tiny. She's a little Mexican woman. She's like literally 4'9". She used to be 4'9". She's probably shorter now. And she's always like, there are these Christian directors. You should look them up. Like, and it's really funny because people who aren't in the industry just have no idea how it works. They think that everyone knows each other in Hollywood, and
you could just go be in their movie.
Right. I could just phone them up and be like, hey, Christian director guys, put me in your film. But honestly, like, I don't know about those movies.
But what do you remember besides Christopher Lloyd? You remember anything else?
Not really.
Do you remember the premise of the film?
No.
Oh. Do you know why it's called Angels in the Outfield?
I know that there were angels and there was baseball, and that's really all that I kept.
I remember, like, the overall plot of the movie, but, like, the intricacies I don't. Like, I know the premise of the film is little baby JGL, baby Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He is in the foster system, and, like, he's there because his dad chose to put him there. And
Dude.
His dad's like, we could be a family when the Angels win the pennant because the Angels are the worst team in the MLB. And so he like prays, and Christopher Lloyd's like an archangel or something like that. And it's just like, he helps the Angels win the games. And through the course of the movie, JGL finds the family he didn't expect to have.
Oh. So I have some questions.
Mm-hmm.
Are the Angels a real baseball team?
Yeah, they play in Anaheim. Like, I can see their stadium from my office when I'm in the office when we're not in pandemic.
So are the actual players in the movie?
No. The actual players in the movie, I don't know. I'd have to look into it. Like, I normally do my fact checking when before we actually watch the film. So I haven't looked into it at all yet.
How did the actual Angels feel about being portrayed as a really team?
I don't know, but
that
please don't swear on our podcast.
Metaphysical interference. That's cheating.
Yeah, it kind of is. I don't know. I think, and I could be wrong. I'll look this up and I'll get back to you after we watch the movie and we go and record that second portion. But I think Disney owned the team for a while. So they probably didn't have a
Whoa.
say.
They
I
probably
don't-
bought the team specifically to make a movie, and they probably were a terrible team, which is why they could buy them on the cheap for the sake of making a film.
Well-
Like the Foo Fighters buying Mentos to make their music video.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Isn't that a thing? Like the Foo Fighters purchase Mentos so they can make fun of the Mentos commercials in their music video?
I don't think they need to do that because it's parody.
I heard that they did.
I don't know. Would you look that up?
Maybe that's just an urban legend from the 90s.
I don't know. I've never heard that before.
Because I think it even says Futos. Like, they didn't even use the Mentos name.
Oh, weird. No, I think they just did parody. I don't think you need to buy a company to do parody.
I don't think so either. Maybe they just didn't realize it because they're musicians and not lawyers.
Maybe. I don't know. Anywho, yeah, that's all I really remember about the movie. I know Tony Danza's in it. I know Danny Glover's in the movie and little baby JGL, and that's all I really remember about the film. So I think we should
I always forget that Tony Danza acts.
Hold me closer, Tony Danza.
I'm pretty sure I sang that just as badly on our last episode.
Did you sing that? Oh, when we announced the movie?
Probably.
Yeah, probably. Anywho, let's get to our fans. You got any comments from our listeners?
I have one from Nadine Hoff 78. One of the first movies that I have seen with Tony and Joseph.
Oh, that's right. They had that Don Juan or Don John or whatever it was, where JGL's a porn addict.
Tony Danza's in that?
Yeah, he's his dad.
Oh, the one with ScarJo.
The one with ScarJo, yeah.
I remember being very entertained by that.
It was a solid movie. I think it was a
Solid.
little long, but it was good.
All right.
ScarJo looked good in it, though.
Yeah.
Bashbro415, probably from San Francisco.
Bash Bro?
Bashbro415 says, the goofy pitcher. Oh!
What's a Bash Bro?
Well, it's probably from the Mighty Ducks. You had the Bash Brothers and the D2 and D3.
Oh.
Yeah, that's funny. We actually recorded an episode on the Mighty Ducks that we hated, so we didn't
was so
we
bad.
didn't release it. So
We just skipped. I don't think we even posted anything about it.
we did. We put all the stuff out there. Tell us what you remember. We watched it, and neither.
I
of
don't
us...
think we announced that we were canning it.
No, we did. I totally.
Really?
Yeah.
What did you say?
I think I said there were some technical difficulties or something like that.
In that this movie is so boring, we can't even
What's
make
funny
a viable
is
episode.
The D2 I still like. I watched that movie a few years back, like 5 years ago, and I remember liking it. So when hockey comes back, I think we should try Mighty Ducks again, but go to D2. But anyway, I do remember the picture in this, the goofy picture, because I remember as a kid, there's a scene, I think there's a scene in this movie where you do the thing where you're wearing a long jacket or sweatshirt and you put like one arm through both sleeves. So it looks like you're looping your arms, and then you put one arm, and you listeners can't see what I'm doing, but you move your one arm up and down, and then when you move down with your one arm, you go up with your other arm, and then you pretend like you're punching yourself in the face. And there's a scene where the pitcher punches himself in the face, pretending to punch himself in the face.
I'm sorry, my brain is still working on the schematics of that.
I'll find the clip, and I'll post it, or I'll show you later. But no, I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
I couldn't refute it because I still haven't mentally caught up to that image.
We've got a couple more. You want to read another one?
No. Yes. Tony Danza _fan_ account said, great movie, 100%. I guess. I think when I type 100%, that little emoji comes up.
That's 100%.
It just says 100.
Yeah.
With 2 stripes underneath it.
Yeah, that means 100%.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm going to kind of combine the next two. So our friends...
It means 100%. Did I miss this in math?
No. It's
That when you put 2 lines
No,
underneath
it's a social
it-
media thing, I think.
Oh.
So,
You had me really worried there. I'm bad at math, which is the reason I'm an actor instead, but I didn't think I was that bad.
I'm an actor.
Actor.
Camera.
On camera.
So I'm going to combine the next two. So we have a really good friendship with the guys over at Wreck My Podcast and the Dan and Cody podcast, and they basically shared the exact same memory. So Dan and Cody said, I remember the uptight guy tasked with babysitting JGL and the other kid getting food spilled all over him. And Wreck My Podcast said, I remember there being a bumbling antagonistic type character with long hair and glasses that I can only describe from memory as a corporate vegan hippie.
Vegan hippie.
Now that you mention it, I do remember that accountant type, nerdy, uptight character, but couldn't picture him to save my life.
Now that he mentions it, he did kind of look like early Steve Jobs.
I can't even picture him in my head right now. So
Yeah, dude with long hair.
yeah, well, let's
Slightly
go.
larger nose. Suit.
Let's go watch the movie, and then I'll see if that part refreshes my memory.
All right.
Walt Disney Pictures, when these angels meet a real angel.
No one can see me but you.
Amazing things start to happen.
Unbelievable! How do you do that? It must have been those chili dogs that ate before the game.
This summer, there's magic in the air. And angels in the outfield. Rated PG. Starts Friday, July 15th at a theater near you.
And we're back. Mm-hmm. We watched the movie Angels in the Outfield.
Every time we do a sports movie, I'm like, I'm just gonna hope for the best.
This is the only sports movie we've actually completed, though, and are going to upload.
They're just so bad.
I don't think We'll talk about how we actually felt about the movie at the end, because I think this movie, for lack of a better word, was short. It wasn't very long.
What I'm about to say may be controversial. This movie was mediocre at best.
I think that's fair. I
Yeah.
think that's totally fair. There were a lot of things I liked about it, but it was campy, but I remember the angels being a bigger part of the movie, and I don't think there were that many angels in the movie.
The angels were off-putting. They were not comforting.
No.
Neither were they like actual biblical depictions of angels with like rotating wheels with millions of eyes.
What?
Yeah, that's how angels are described in the... Okay, angels are described in the Bible as like all kinds of beasts that would be absolutely terrifying to witness. So I guess maybe it is appropriate that the angels were slightly off-putting.
To me, they looked like the stereotypical angels, like they were all men in flowing white gowns with halos and big wings. So, okay then.
Hang on. I need to find it.
I think what you described as an angel is actually a Dalek from Doctor Who. Or maybe some Lovecraftian horror.
So I had to look it up. Ezekiel 1:5-11 says that we are told that the overall appearance of them are that they're like humans, but their legs end in hooves like a calf. And they have 4 faces, one that's like a man, one that's a lion, one that's an ox, and one that's an eagle, and 4 wings that hide their human hands. And when they move, their face never turns.
Like Batman.
Yeah, so I'm good with maybe never coming across one of those. That's terrifying.
The cloven feet makes sense because we say the devil has the cloven feet and the devil is a fallen angel.
I think people confuse like depictions of Baphomet with Satan. Yeah.
Anyway, let's get back to this movie. I'll summarize it real quick, and then we could just get right into it. I think my summary at the top of the episode is pretty accurate, but basically JGL is...
Baby JGL.
Baby JGL. He and a boy named JP were kind of together for a long time in this foster system, and JP's family died in a car accident, but JGL's family abandoned him. His mom passed away, and his dad just left him to be a ward of the state. And they love baseball, so they sneak into the baseball games and everything. And one day he comes back after getting kicked out of a baseball game for hiding in a tree. He comes to the foster care home, and his dad's there. And it's that guy from Sex and the City. I can never remember his name. You know his name. What's his name? Dermot Mulroney?
Oh, Dermot Mulroney? Is that his name?
Yeah, something like that. That dude. He's in everything. He's in everything. So anyway, he's like, I'm a cool dad. I ride motorcycles. I totally could have taken you with me on this trip to Seattle, but I decided to sell my car so I can ride a motorcycle. And just so you know, I'm going to put paperwork in so we're no longer a family. And JGL's like, hey, Dad, when can we be a family? And the guy's like, the Angels suck at baseball, so I'll tell you what. If they win the pennant, I'll be your dad again. And JGL's like, oh, cool. Thanks, Dad. And so the dad drives off, and the foster mom's religious. And so
She's the pigeon lady.
she's the
from
pigeon lady
Home
from
Alone.
Home Alone 2
Without the poo.
without the poo. And he decides to pray really hard. Like he kind of rolls his eyes when they're praying at dinner, but then he decides to pray really, really hard. And he goes to a baseball game, like on a field trip or something like that. And then Christopher Lloyd as an angel shows up and says, hey, kid, we're going to help them out. Certain people can't find out. So like, keep your trap shut. Don't tell people that there's angels. By the way, only you can see or hear me. So people are going to think you're crazy if you talk about it. So don't.
Sweet.
JGL immediately tells everybody that angels are helping. And he gets in touch with the coach of the team.
Wait, he told people, and then the angel dude came back and was like, hey, don't tell anyone.
Well, he told him not to say anything first. And then he's like, okay, you can tell Danny Glover, who's the coach of the team, but don't tell the accountant dude for whatever reason. So the accountant dude is what some of our friends from other podcasts pointed out. And so throughout the game, the movie, they start getting really, really good. And then the last game of the season to win the championship, the Angels can't accept help from the Angels because that would be cheating. And so the Angels have to win it on their own, and everybody finds a happy ending. And yeah, that's pretty much the movie.
What I find most interesting about this was that at no point was a major media outlet like, entirety of Anaheim suffers from massive psychosis. Everyone was like, well, I can't see them, but they say it's happening.
Well, so the thing is, the whole movie, initially, George Knox, played by Danny Glover, is kind of a jerk. Like, he apparently was like one of the best baseball coaches in the league, and he had an incident with like a broadcaster, and he was paid a bunch of money to come and fix the Angels. And for whatever reason, the owner of the team won't let him really do that. He won't let him trade any players. He won't let them get new players or recruit anybody. So he's just like stuck with the worst team, which you could be an amazing coach, but if you don't have the best players, like, there's only so much you can do. So like, that's why trading and whatnot is a thing in baseball. So he's kind of like handcuffed into what he can actually do to become a better coach. So as these Angels start coming in, he doesn't necessarily believe it, but for whatever reason, every time he listens to JGL, something miraculous happens. And it isn't until the end of the movie where the broadcaster that hates the coach finds out that there are kids who think angels are going. And so he broadcasts it out to the media to discredit George Knox, the Danny Glover. So that's why you don't really see it in the press, is they tried to keep it stifled until the very end of the movie.
Got it. I did enjoy that at the beginning of the film, like the first 30 seconds, they established like 50% of the parents are dead. 75% of the parents are dead.
75% of the parents, yeah.
Yeah, it's... You're always just like, oh, here we go. More dead parents.
Yep. Well, what I appreciated about this movie is, first off, the kid who played JP was so cute.
Yeah.
He was adorable, and like he had his catchphrase like, it can happen, but he was a little kid. Like, he's what, maybe 5 or 6?
He's real little.
He's really little, but he had this like raspy voice that was just adorable. And he was just the sweetest kid, and I wanted everything good to happen. And I have a problem with how they treated him at the end of the movie, but we'll wait till we get to the end of the movie to talk about that. But that kid was great. I loved that kid. Every time he was on screen, I was like, he was the highlight of the movie. Like, if that kid wasn't in the movie, I don't think I would have liked this at all.
Yeah, he was one of the few redeeming things in this. It was just like a whole bunch of stereotypes to set up the story. Like, and the dad wasn't just a bad dad. He was like a stereotypically, purposefully bad father.
Yeah. Like, I'm going to go get a pack of smokes and then doesn't come back kind of dad.
Wears a leather jacket. It's just...
Has long hair.
It's disappointing. And then he like blames the dead mother in
Yeah,
some
dude.
way.
My jaw
Right
dropped
before
when
he
you said
leaves.
that. Like, maybe if your mom didn't die,
I know.
could have worked out. It's like, whoa.
I just feel like they could have done something that was slightly more believable and it'd still be just as heartbreaking.
Right. Like, he had to get a job or he was a criminal and like just got out of jail and didn't have a job yet or something.
Yeah.
Like, anything that would have made it work out. But they had to ultimately set it up where something better would happen for the kid at the end of the movie. So,
Right.
what are some highlights in the movie for you?
There was like everyone in this.
Yeah,
A whole bunch of people.
Matthew McConaughey.
It was fun to see because they're not all in big roles. There's Matthew McConaughey, Danny Glover, Tony Danza, Adrian Brody, of all people.
Yeah, did you know Adrian Brody, as a method actor, actually got onto a baseball team for this role?
For what, his 3 lines?
No, I'm just kidding. He didn't do any of that.
He looks really young in this.
He's super young in this.
Like, going back and watching The Pianist, I feel like his nose had grown at least 3 more centimeters by the time he made that movie. So that's what, like 10 years?
I
don't remember.
What 2000?
I don't know.
That's fine.
I haven't seen much of him since then, honestly.
Yeah, he hasn't. Like, he's done a lot, but like he hasn't been in anything like huge. Like I think the biggest thing he's been in since he first started like blowing up was the Predator, and that was like 2010.
He was a little creepy in this.
A little bit. Like
he's got some. He's got some villain vibes.
What was weird about this is he was like supposed to be like the plucky, happy-go-lucky player, like, "Hey, coach,"
right,
and everything, but like. He's also supposed to be like the worst batter in the league and everything. It's like, how is he even on the team if he's the worst? But whatever.
It's a little strange.
And then Matthew McConaughey's in it. I forgot that he was in it, and he does almost nothing. Like he has like 3 or 4 lines.
The Pine Sol lady is in this.
Yeah, that was funny.
Diane Amos. She sits behind them at the game, right next to them.
And then it had that one guy. Oh, I can never remember his name, but he's one of those character actors who was in seriously everything. Like the guy with the really light blonde hair. He was the guy who played like the goofy pitcher who did punch himself in the face doing that arm thing in the jacket that I brought up before.
Got it. And then, of course, there's Christopher Lloyd. This movie, and I think that is what is so strange about it. It obviously had a huge budget. Danny Glover was
Disney.
pretty big at the time.
Yeah, he was huge. He was still. They were still making Lethal Weapon movies
They had
at the time.
Christopher Lloyd. They had. It's really CG heavy, and it's not. I mean, I feel like the style that they chose is what dates this more than the technical execution of it.
Because, yeah, the technical execution still looks pretty good. It
does.
really is just like cheesy 90 movie.
Yeah, it feels like they threw a whole bunch of money at like an okay script. Like they're like, oh, let's buy this script, we'll punch it up, we'll shoot it, and then they just didn't have time to punch it up.
Well, this was a remake of a movie. There was a movie that came out in the 50s that this is a remake of. The guy I was thinking is Neil
McDonough.
Yeah,
something?
that guy. Yeah.
McDonough. He
It's just
did a
McDonough.
thing on the X-Files, I think.
McDonough.
Was he an X-Files dude?
Probably. He's been literally in everything. Like
He's
he
like
has,
a USA Network type.
I mean, he's been in everything. He has like 130 acting credits. He's been in like every
Whoa.
TV show. He's been in like...
He does a lot of boomer shows. Was he on The Last Ship?
Probably.
Probably. So much Danny Glover.
I've met Danny Glover several times.
Do you
think our listeners care about how Danny Glover shops at the retail establishment I used to work at?
No, don't call him out.
I'm just gonna.
Don't
it's
call
pretty
him
funny.
out. I mean, I'm about to call him out anyway. For my note that I took was Danny Glover yells all his lines and wastes salami as well as a performance. This role was probably the most interesting part of the movie and the character who got the most development, and yet he phoned it in. Like, none of it felt connected and grounded. And
I agree.
It was just a lot of yelling.
I can't disagree with you. In
It
fact,
was so disappointing.
I like a lot of movies that Danny Glover is in. Like, now, granted, I haven't watched any of the Lethal Weapon movies in probably 15 years.
And he's a good actor. I think he could take stuff that's campy and really, really sell it.
I think he's good in Predator 2. I liked him in the Lethal Weapon movies, but there was a period of time where like he got like veneers or something. There was a period of time from like I think he's in Shooter, and then he did like 2020 or 2012, and then a couple of other movies. And for a while, like you can tell he hadn't figured out how to speak with them, and it was almost made like a lot of stuff that he was in almost laughable, which I feel bad.
There was this era in Hollywood where everyone started getting veneers, and I think no one gave them a heads up of like, when you put the tiniest bit of change of a layer on your tooth, you speak completely differently. So there were a lot of people who suddenly had like giant teeth in their mouths, like blindingly white. And it was so... odd. It was like those commercials where they give the dog human teeth. And its mouth is talking like a human. Ugh.
But I do think you're right in that there wasn't very much nuance in his performance, but I do think he was the right actor for the role, but I do think he phoned it in. Like,
Yeah,
I think
felt like he phoned it in.
I think in 94 he was the perfect kind of guy, because baseball coaches in most movies are yelling and screaming most of the lines, but like the moments where he was tender, I didn't believe. Like the moments where he was yelling at umpires and like bad baseball players, I thought was pretty good, but
Yeah.
I didn't really connect with him on the emotional scenes.
It's disappointing.
Yeah.
Because there's an opportunity to give quite a bit of humanity to an addict.
An addict?
Yeah, he had pain pills.
Did he? No, that was Tony Danza.
Oh.
Tony Danza's character was the one who had a pill. Shoot. So, I don't even know where to start with this. Should we just talk about the angels, like the interventions, or do you want to talk about like the relationship with the kids and Danny Glover?
I want to talk about that whole can of worms. It's okay. And I feel like this is only something that people who are familiar with the foster system, or who basically know the tiniest bit about the foster system, would nitpick. But if you're a foster kid, like, you're a ward of the state, you're entrusted to your foster parent, you do not have this much freedom to just go and do whatever you want with whatever adults who want you around.
Yeah.
And, like, at no point was the foster mother, the pigeon lady, like, it's a little creepy that these grown men are showering these two boys with a whole bunch of gifts and taking up a lot of their time and taking them into the dugout and letting them be in, like, it just seems so creepy and gross and inappropriate, and at no point does she like have a little meeting with the dude to be like, yo, what the hell is this?
I think there was that scene a little bit. I think it was
But
probably
not
edited
enough.
out, because like the first time, so what kind of happens and sets everything in motion is divine intervention, obviously, but when they go to the game, JP, you know, like games always have the thing like the person sitting in this seat wins, blah blah blah. Well, JP won, but he's a very shy kid, so he lets JGL take the prize, which is to go down and meet the coach and get a picture taken. And that's when he tells Danny Glover about the Angels. And then Danny Glover's like, dude, don't we screen these kids? Like, this kid's crazy. Like, why are you letting him around me? And JGL's like, dude, I'm not crazy. Like, ask Matthew McConaughey. Matthew McConaughey will tell you something was different.
Tell him to stop with the bongos and listen.
Naked bongos and weed. Tell him to put the bong and the bongos down and tell you what happened. So he does that, and they're like watching the tape, and George Knox with Matthew McConaughey is like, here it is. And you see like Matthew McConaughey like change directions in midair and get lifted. And Matthew McConaughey is like, yeah, it felt weird. Like something picks me up. And then Danny Glover's like, okay, I guess the kid is on to something. So he personally delivers the photo that they took. And the foster mom does have a meaning like, dude, this is weird. Like, why are you here? And he's just like, I think he's a good luck charm. And she looks at him skeptical. But then, like, the next scene, JGL mentions to the foster mom, like, hey, do you believe in angels? And I think there was probably a scene cut out where we see more of her faith. And she probably realizes, like, this is a moment of faith for JGL and that something actually is going on. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the movie, she gets up on a soapbox and like, you guys are always talking about how we need to believe in something, and here's a kid who believes in something, and you guys are going to, you know, try to bring him down.
Yeah.
So I think probably that was something that was taken out of the edit.
I did really like her portrayal there.
Yeah, I think so too.
And it's so strange, like she captured this thing that I knew, because I had a lot of friends who were foster kids growing up, and she kind of captured like the best of the foster parents that I did meet. This like tenderness, but also like figure stuff out for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like it giving the kids some agency, which is pretty cool.
We have friends who are parents and foster parents who I'm sure would be the same way. If they, you know, they have younger kids in the foster, not the older ones, but I think they would be the same way. But yeah, it was nice to see the foster system a little bit. And we watched that show, The Fosters, on whatever, Freeform or whatever that channel's called.
Which was like progressive times 10.
Yeah, it's progressive times 10. You really see the nitty gritty. and obviously we're in a woke time period, but it was actually interesting to see this portrayal in the 90s, and obviously it was sugar-coated a bit, but you did see how these kids make attachments to people and lose them, because there's that one kid who did get adopted at some point, and like it was kind of devastating to these kids, because it's
always bittersweet.
Yeah, they're like, here's this kid that we grew to love, and he's gone, and we feel good for him, but it's like, why not us?
Right.
And everything. So I thought that was handled fairly well for a kids movie in the 90s.
It is very, very sugar coated, but of course, like, it's always great to have any representation of foster kids at all, because there is so little representation,
for sure,
and always has been.
So I definitely think JP carried this movie in the scene season. So like some of our listeners and our
Christopher Lloyd was very entertaining, though.
Christopher Lloyd was not in the movie nearly as much as I thought.
As much as I had hoped he would be.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously, you know how I am about Back to the Future, and I obviously when I see Christopher Lloyd in things, I really like him. I think I said the same thing about the Page Master when we covered it, that I would have liked to see more of that character because I like Christopher Lloyd so much.
Right.
But a lot of people pointed out how the kids were kind of babysat by this like accountant type guy, and one of my favorite scenes of the movie that just had me dying was the coach has this guy babysitting the kids, but the kids tell the coach, hey, when this guy's around, the angels won't be here. So he keeps telling the guy to go up and get the merchandise and get him new food, and the kids keep putting the food down, and then the guy sits in the food and gets nachos all over him, then he spills his drink all over him or mustard, and he keeps having to go back up.
He basically just gets tortured the whole time
by these kids. But there's one point when JGL is like, there's an angel, but like this guy's got to go, and so JP asks for coffee, and the guy's like, you drink coffee? He's like, yeah, all the time. Do I look like a little kid? Give me some coffee before I scream. Like, he makes his voice really deep, and I was like, whoa. I laughed so hard because he just made like a Batman voice asking for coffee, and I was like, I laughed so hard. And then throughout the whole movie, with just like,
you popped Al.
But throughout the whole movie, like, there's also this like really heartwarming scene when it's bittersweet, because you have this kid who wants to believe in angels so much, and he wants to help his friend JGL get his dad back, and he also wants the angels to win, but JGL has to miss a game to go to court where he finds out that his father is leaving and that he's signing away his rights. So JP is at the game, and the coach is like, hey, it's fine if you see an angel, cool, but I don't expect you to. And throughout the movie, he like that game, he's really looking, and then he's just like praying and really trying to see an angel and hope that he can help them win. And the Angels end up losing that game, but that was a turning point for the relationship, because the coach comes over to kind of comfort JGL, and JGL's like, you just came because you lost the game. He's like, no, I heard about your dad and I want to be here for you. And that's like a really great turning point. And then they have like this montage of them like hanging out, like they go and play baseball with like the neighborhood kids,
right?
And that scene, I completely forgot about that scene, but that made me laugh so hard when there was that little tiny kid that nobody wanted to play with, and the coach like, who up until this moment or the scene before has been gruff and didn't really embrace these children, is like, hey, let's let everyone play. Come on, kid, we'll teach you how to play baseball. And he's like, run home. And then the kid runs away. They're like, where's he going? And JGL's like, you told him to run home.
Just
like,
keeps going.
Yeah, I thought that was great. And that basically leads us to the end of the movie when they get to the last game and Al shows up and is like, hey, the Angels aren't gonna show up this time. Like, they have to win it on their own. But it turns out, like, throughout the movie, there are certain times where there were games where the Angels didn't show up and they still won. Like, we see the players get better because they believe in themselves and they believe in divine intervention. So it's like that scene in Space Jam when they, like, Bugs Bunny gives the water and he's like, yeah, this is the secret stuff, but they just win because they think they're getting help even though they're not. Yeah. It's that placebo effect. So they start getting better and they win the game. It's great. And then Danny Glover adopts JGL, and this is the scene that really bothered me because like JP is such a sweet kid. And so they send they're like, hey JGL, we've got some news for you, and they tell JP to go away. And like, which I don't understand. So Danny Glover's like,
it's like they ask for a minute but just send him across the room to watch.
So they're like, hey, I heard about your dad and I think we have a great relationship and I'm gonna adopt you if you want. And JGL's like, what about JP? And like JP's like crying in the corner over there. And like, it's okay, you go be with Danny Glover. And Danny Glover's like, of course he's coming too. Like, why would you not sit them both down and say
right?
that? Like, why torture the kid whose parents died in a horrific car accident, who still has trauma every time he's in a vehicle, and tell him to go away, and he's going to lose his only friend in the world, and then be like, no, you're coming too.
He relegated JP to his new son's sidekick son.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like if you adopt Dr. Frankenstein, and then you also adopt Igor to be like your assistant. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, it was a strange scene.
Or if you took like Cinderella, like you're like, I'm gonna adopt this kid that I like, and Cinderella, you're gonna be this kid's like cleaning slave. like it's just like it was super weird, and I didn't understand why they did that.
Very depressing for a moment.
And I just realized we didn't really talk about the angels, but you only see like the angels intervene in like 4 or 5 major ways. Like you see them pick up Matthew McConaughey a couple times. You see them help a batter a couple times.
I know there were several different distinct angels with characters, but I could not tell you how many or what their characters were like.
4. So there was one who helped like this one guy bat who looked like a Babe Ruth type and did like the sticking his tongue out and like twisting his nose up, who just like obliterated the ball in the bat. And then there was one guy who stopped the other pitcher by like slowing the ball down so Adrian Brody can like hit the home run. And then you had a bunch of smaller angels who you never really saw. And then you had the one angel that picks up Matthew McConaughey a couple of times. And then there was one, like the only female angel was like the one that like rubbed Tony Danza's arms before he would pitch. Like she would give him a massage and then he would pitch real good.
Real good.
Real good. She gave him a release.
Gross.
And that's pretty much it. And then like I thought, going to Tony Danza really quick, I saw this movie. I just realized as we've been talking about it.
We haven't talked about him at all.
Yeah, but
he's hardly in it.
He's hardly in it. But I remember now watching this movie in theaters. Like I remember this movie came out right around the time my little sister was born. So I think my aunt and my grandma came to like watch us, and they took us to go see this movie at the old Oak Ridge Mall, like before the movie theater got redone when we were in like high school. And I remember Tony Danza being huge because at the time, you still had Who's the Boss running. Mm-hmm. And I remember Tony Danza being a huge part. Like I honestly thought that Tony Danza was going to adopt JGL before we watched the movie, not while we were watching. Once I saw how little he was in the movie, I remembered, no, it was Danny Glover. But for some reason, I thought Tony Danza pitching was like the crux of this movie, and he was the one that like the kids really related to. And no, it's
he was
not.
just some rando in this.
But I think I just now realized why I thought that, because our last episode we were like debating whether we were going to do this movie or Rookie of the Year, and I think that's the case in Rookie of the Year because Gary Busey is the pitcher in that movie, and he kind of bonds with the kids. So I think I got my memory of this movie and Rookie of the Year combined.
Yeah, sports movies definitely have that effect on me.
Yeah, I feel you. So, did this ruin your childhood? How do you feel about it overall?
I mean, I didn't remember a lot about it, but looking at a glance, I thought this was going to be a lot better because it looks like it was a very expensive movie, or at least like pricier for a family film.
Yeah.
And they invested a lot of money into it, so I was surprised at how bad it was.
Yeah, I feel like it was
kind
just
of
like,
ruined it.
Yeah, I don't want to say ruined my childhood, but I did not enjoy this movie as much as I thought it was going to be, having Christopher Lloyd in this movie and young JGL, who I really like. Like, he doesn't do a ton of stuff, but pretty much everything JGL is in, I like.
Right.
And now, granted, he was a kid and he had a lot less agency in picking his roles as a kid. But yeah, this wasn't a good movie, and being called Angels in the Outfield, I would have expected a lot more angels, and I didn't really see as many angels as I thought. Like, I remember as a kid loving all the funny angels, and I didn't find the angels that enjoyable. Like, I thought it was a little in between. And as an adult watching this movie, I thought, well, actually, I'm going to get into this because this episode we've kind of toyed with having a new segment.
Right.
And maybe we should just get into this new segment.
I've got some ideas.
So what we're going to start doing is, for movies more in the early 90s, we're not going to do this for every episode. We're not going to do this with every movie. We're not going to do it with TV shows. But I think movies that were made when, like, pre-1995, I think is probably what we were kind of talking about. But talk about if they were to remake this now, because these are 25 to 30-year-old movies and theoretically could start getting remade. So we're going to talk about like how this would be different if this was made. We don't have a name for this segment yet.
We don't.
We'll figure it out in subsequent episodes.
Figure it out.
But yeah, what do you think would be different if we made this now?
I think just because, and this is all from a practical standpoint, there aren't as many of the big budget family films around younger kids these days.
No.
I think people are a lot more interested in seeing teenagers, so I think they would have aged the kids up like 5 or 6 years. Like,
yeah, they probably
to the
been
point,
like 12, 13.
Well, I think maybe even like the older boy would be more like 16, like more in that area.
Maybe,
I
yeah.
think the backstory would have been even tougher. I think there would still be dead parents because that's just
Oh, you don't think they would have picked like some other social issue or like the parents are actually dead or missing in action or something like that?
No, I think they'd still be foster kids, but I think they'd have a terrible foster parent.
Oh.
Who was like one of the abusers of the system.
Oh.
And I think the kids would have worked at the ballpark in some capacity.
Okay. Like
So-
cleaning it up or something like that.
Yeah, like working in the stand or cleaning the locker rooms or something that gave them access.
Oh, I like that. Like maybe it was a major, not a faux pas, but something like the kid shouldn't have done. Like on just a whim, he sees the coach, and he really shouldn't be talking to the coach, even if he saw him. But he breaks protocol and sees the coach, and
Right, and then they think that he's being like they think that he's like doing drugs and he's been hallucinating and stuff. So then like another social worker starts looking in on it, and then they realize like halfway through the movie that there's a really terrible
abuse going on.
abuse situation. So then he's moved to another foster home and he can't be with his other brother. I think it would be like a lot more high stakes.
Oh, I think what would be interesting, and we didn't really talk about this while we were talking about the original movie, but there's a point in the original movie where JP is very upset, and he's like, I'm sorry that there were I didn't see any angels, and the broadcaster who has like beef with Knox puts it out there, and then there's this huge press release, and the owner of the team tells Danny Glover like, hey, you need to say that angels don't exist. And then they do. I think it would be interesting if they did this now. I think for some people it's unfortunate, for some people it is fortunate, but I do think religion isn't as important nowadays to some people, and
Well,
it's definitely
and I
more
think-
important to others. So I wonder how the spiritual side of this would
Just
go.
from my own bias, when someone tells me it's a Christian movie, I expect it to be B-movie quality.
Right.
So when something has a really strong religious theme, you look at it like, oh, is this one of those Christian movies?
I think so too. So I think I don't know how you do that in 2020 and do that and not have people think it's propaganda. But let's say
Or it's like
Disney-
Fireproof
right.
or The War Room.
Right. So let's say if Disney figures out a way to make this where it's not going to alienate people for being too heavy-handed with religion. I think it would be interesting if it came into it, because in the original movie that we watched, they kind of just look at like, oh, these people are crazy for thinking angels exist. But I think it would be interesting with how much better technology we have in terms of like replays and analytics and everything, that they actually do see that like the equivalent of the Matthew McConaughey's character actually does change trajectory, and the way that like the baseball players hit the ball, like there's no way they could generate enough force to do that. Like they actually get like science into this to be like,
Right.
dude, something's going on.
It would be like a global debate. And I think they would take the opportunity to make it more ecumenical. And a turning point would be when all these people from different religions show up to be like, I see them too.
That would be interesting, but I also think what would happen as another crux would be that other teams or the MLB accuse the Angels of using performance enhancing drugs. And that's another wrinkle that they were like, what are these guys actually doing? Like, it can't be Angels. They are using steroids.
Right.
And that's super applicable to baseball because there's always been a steroid scandal with baseball.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a really interesting way where they would like, it's this, and you'd almost have like a Miracle on 34th Street moment where they're in court and like the JGL equivalent have to be like, dude, there's angels. kind of
I'm
thing.
not crazy.
I'm not crazy. And then like something happens, and no matter what ends up happening, it's going to be the same thing at the ending where the Angels can't intervene and win, and the Angels have the baseball team has to win on their own. And you're going to still get the scene where people start flapping their arms to make people believe. But I think there would be a steroid subplot in this, and maybe one of the characters. So we didn't touch on it too much, but Tony Danza's character is older. He's past his prime, and there was a scandal. He got pulled away from a team because he was using pain pills. So maybe in this version, it is somebody was using steroids and they had a steroid thing, and that's how they really latch onto it. Like some broadcasters, like, dude, this character has used steroids in the past.
Right.
We couldn't prove it because there was something with the tennis player not too long ago that she legitimately, for a medical reason, was prescribed a medication, but it turns out this medication had a subcomponent, like a chemical in it, that was on the banned chemical list. And so she had to fight me like, this was prescribed to me by a doctor. I had no idea. Like, this is an issue that I had, and it was a big thing. So maybe that ties into it. But like, this guy had a scandal before with performance enhancing. He has a need to win. He's cheated before. Maybe he's spiking everybody else with like steroids or something like that. I think that would be like the way that the naysayers would try to justify this.
Right. I think the story has good bones and is still commercially viable today. But even back then, like the script that they used for this movie was not interesting.
It was pretty corny. I do agree.
It was just dull.
Yeah, I didn't have high expectations going into this episode for the movie. Like, I thought I would enjoy it. I didn't think I was going to love it, but it was like 93 minutes, if even that.
In summary, lots of boring baseball, press conference, and more baseball.
Yep. Yeah. I think the biggest crux of it was, other than the kids, I don't think there were really any characters I really connected with. Like, none of the baseball players really had that much to do.
Who do you think would be in the film if it was done today?
I think, it being Disney, they're going to pull people from the Marvel side. I think
Tom Holland?
No, I think he'd be...
He's a little too old.
No, I think he's too old. I think you would get either like a Robert Downey Jr. type. I think Robert Downey Jr. would be good as Knox. Like, I just watched Due Date recently, where he's like this bitter person, and then he's forced to be with Zach Galifianakis. Not Zach Galifianakis. No, it is Zach Galifianakis.
Yeah.
No. Is it?
Yeah. Due Date. Zach Galifianakis.
No, Zach Galifianakis is that kid, like that one who looks like a kid.
No, he's
No,
not.
who's that guy?
I don't know.
Oh, that's Andy Milonakis.
I
No, Zach Galifianakis.
no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, but yeah, I think Robert Downey Jr. would be a good baseball coach. Kind of like he's angry and bitter, but then he becomes softer throughout the movie. So I think you get him, and I think maybe you get like a Chris Evans as the pitcher who needs to like overcome obstacles.
Got it. Directed by Guillermo del Toro.
Guillermo del Toro. No,
He does actual biblical angels. It
that'd be
scares the
weird.
crap out of everyone.
Who would be a good director for this? Honestly, you know what I think would be fun, and I don't think he would do a Disney movie based off his
Michael Bay.
No, his experience with Ant-Man. But I think Edgar Wright would be a really fun director for a movie like this.
Oh, he could save this script.
He could save like the baseball play, like seeing him do a sports movie and like the stylistic things. Like, I think he would do a really good job with that. I think I would like to see Edgar Wright do an Angels in the Outfield remake.
I would like to see a sports film that I actually enjoyed.
Okay, but so what are we doing on our next episode? You know,
No, I don't.
we have a special guest come in for it.
What?
We have a special guest who did this movie almost a year ago with us. We're doing a sequel to a movie we covered a year ago with Keanu Reeves. Bill and Ted 2. Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Who's our special guest?
Dustin.
Oh,
So
I wasn't involved in organizing it.
we talked about it earlier today.
I'm tired.
So yeah, anyway, about a year, almost exactly a year ago, we did the first Bill and Ted movie. And now, actually 2 weeks from now, when this episode drops, we're going to have Bill and Ted 3 Face the Music comes out. So we're going to do the second Bill and Ted, and we're bringing Dustin back. And
Dusty.
I'm really excited. I'm so excited, and I've been watching a lot of Keanu Reeves movies. So we did Die Hard and Speed as movies that aren't remakes but are basically the same movie.
Right.
For Remake Rewind, and this week we're doing it again with Point Break and Fast and Furious.
Nice.
So I'm watching a lot of Keanu Reeves movies right now, and I'm very excited about it. And I'm really excited to bring my best friend back on the podcast and talk about a Keanu Reeves movie as the Keanu Soars.
It's going to be a good time.
Yeah, every time Dustin comes on the show, it's great. The Keanu Reeves episode was great. The Sandlot episode, that's the sports movie you like.
Oh, that's my one and only.
Yeah,
The
there we go.
Sandlot.
That was a fun episode.
I will love that movie.
Check out that episode. Go back
forever.
and watch that classic, or listen to that classic episode,
It's a
because
good
it's
episode.
great. It's good. It's good. As a Chuck that could choke a dinosaur, choke a T-Rex or whatever it was. When we were talking about the tobacco scene, and then they all get sick and throw up.
Oh, God.
Dustin said something like he had a
the worst
Chuck that
scene.
could choke a T-Rex or something like that. Anyway, where can our listeners find you?
I am all over the internet at Katrinosity, or you can find my real self under Katrina Sherwood, but it's dark.
Check out her YouTube. You can check out everything that's MDXpods related at YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and the Twitters. At MDXpods. And
Thanks for listening.
that's it. Yeah, thanks for listening.
Bye.